I'm writing some stuff down. Okay, I'm not going to find somebody who can put it all together because it's not that interesting to me anymore because my childhood was very, very difficult. I had a very difficult childhood. And in those days, we didn't have psychologists, that come to somebody that where half the camp gets slaughtered. So, we just had to live through it, basically. It's sort of interesting how tough my life was up to, I would say, about 14, how the struggle of just being a kid and the threat of being kidnapped and the threat of having shooting go all over the place and all that kind of stuff, how you developed out of that and are still fairly sane. I look back and I go, how in the world did I get through all that and I'm not completely screwed up, And so my childhood was very, very, very difficult. And so I remember being in Holland, and I'm about 13 years old. My father is still in Indonesia trying to save his business. And I go and I get a racket, and my buddy takes me to some club, and I go get in some kind of group lesson, I guess, And then I started playing a little more tennis by myself. I mean, my father was still in Indonesia. My mother, she didn't care about tennis, really. She was great. What a great mother. She lived to be 100 years old. Fantastic woman, And so I just started playing some. And then my dad came to Holland when I was about 14 and a half, and then he got more involved. And then I developed pretty fast, but I was so far. It's so late that even I got to be top 10 in Holland. But I always say in the land of the blind, the one with one eye is king. So like being 10 in Holland, being 10 in Holland didn't mean anything. But anyway, I just loved tennis, and I didn't have a chance to play a lot of tennis because there were not a lot of indoor courts. You couldn't play, and I think to myself, as little tennises I played, I never was great, but I was very talented, but I didn't know enough. I sometimes wish I had myself as a coach when I was like even 13, I would have learned a lot more than I did. But I had a passion, and I think that's what's missing with a lot of kids. I don't think a lot of kids understand how to spell the word passion anymore. But you have to have a passion if you want to succeed and become great at something. I don't care whether it's playing the violin or it's whether to play lacrosse or whatever. But if you want to become great in something, you got to have a passion. And I think a lot of the kids nowadays don't have the passion to play. You have to have a passion to be able to play.
Yeah, and I think that's an indication that parents are pushing too hard. The parents have the passion, and you can't give it in a syringe, and you can't push it on your kid. I have a player right now that I'm working with who is becoming very passionate about the sport, but one of her parents is being fairly overbearing with her, and it's stifling her own initiative. So she got signed up for a tournament that she didn't want to play, that she didn't feel like she was ready for because she's working on something. And she called the tournament director and said, "Take me out of the tournament." So, that takes a lot of strength and fortitude. But, when parents are always pushing their kids into things, then you have to then stop pushing so that you can see if your kid actually likes that and will develop their own passion. But if you can't push it on your kid.
A big part of the passion these days is the money. I mean, the parents have this passion and push the kids because of the money. And there is sort of a fine line. There is a fine line between pushing and doing too much of a pushing, because sometimes you do have to encourage and you have to push your kids a little bit. It doesn't always just come from the kid completely by itself. I don't think that happens that often, I think there has to be some kind of a parent behind it, motivating, pushing a little bit, that kind of stuff. But it comes to a point when a kid shows talent, that I think the parent now sees the possibility, especially when you're from Europe, I mean Eastern Europe, especially they see the possibility of getting out of it and making money. And I think that's when the parents become more overbearing than they need to be. You know, I think that happens. But some parents just want to have success for the kid, you know, and they don't understand just to sit back a little bit and be behind them, being same as the USDA, be more of a supporting cast than trying to force the kid too much, you know.